Speaking of that, I hear that you are doing well. I hear you feel well, and you're pretty much you're very
Did you
close.
see this? Did you see my scan?
Yes, yeah, I did. So the short version is the scan looks good. The only thing that I want to note that so in terms of the cancer, it looks good. The only thing that I want to have more of a discussion about is that you have these. Uh, they're a little bit hard to describe exactly, but they're what are called. I'm sorry, it's just big doctor words, but peripheral reticular lung changes. So let me tell you what that means. Basically, if you look at the, okay, so basically what we're saying is that if you look at the lungs are sort of shaped like this.
It's like my mom dropped off.
Oh,
I see her.
yeah, she's still there.
I see
Okay.
her.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so this is the heart down here, and these are the lungs up here, and then they feed up into the trachea there. So basically, when we look at your lungs on the scan, out here on sort of the edge of the lungs, there are these little sort of linear type looking markings, and it's the reason that I note these is because in some cases you can have changes that are kind of like this that are associated with the immunotherapy drug, because what happens is that the immunotherapy drug can activate the immune system in addition to activating it against the cancer. In some cases, the immune system can get activated against the lungs, and then you can have an attack by the immune system on the lungs, and it can look sort of like this, but I don't think that this is that. I spoke with the radiologist about it, and the radiologist agrees with me that this doesn't look classic for that. But I do want to be careful about it, because if the immunotherapy drugs activate the immune system against the lungs, sometimes it's just a thing that we see on the scan that doesn't cause any problems. That happens sometimes. Other times it becomes a sort of a nuisance, and other times it can become quite dangerous. So all of this, what this all boils down to is, I think for now we should continue with the immunotherapy, because I don't think that there's good evidence that this is related to that. But I am going to refer you to see a lung specialist, a pulmonologist here at Stanford, because I would like to have them look at the scans and basically do two things. First, I want to have their opinion about whether this is likely to be related to immunotherapy or not. And then secondly, if they agree that it's not likely to be related to immunotherapy, then I think we need to have them ask whether there needs to be further investigation as to what is causing this change, and figure out if there's something that we need to do about it. So all that is to say that I still think we stay on the immunotherapy. I'm glad that you're feeling so well. We're going to refer you to a lung doctor, and then we'll go from there.
And let me ask, these are new? These were not there before?
They're not new, but they are. So if we compare them to like 3 months ago, the CT scan 3 months ago, which I think was actually done not at Stanford, but anyway, I think that if you look back to that one, they're similar to where they were before, which is again part of the reason that I'm not particularly excited about the fact that they are an acute drug reaction, though I can't really rule it out. But if you go back and compare them to like a year ago, they are at least worse than they were then. There may have been some evidence of them, but they're at least more marked, and so I think they bear further investigation.
Okay.
Yes, when she had the scan at Lodi Memorial, they thought she had pneumonia.
Yeah, this doesn't really
Look like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look like what we would normally think of as a pneumonia. Now, the truth is that when a doctor says the word pneumonia, that can sometimes mean a lot of different things, like depending on the word you put in front of it or behind it. Sometimes pneumonia is not always a simple pneumonia, so it's possible that this could be consistent with something that they were talking about. But in any case, I just think that I think it would be a good idea to have you see a lung specialist.
Sure.
But otherwise, from our perspective, I think we just keep going, see what the lung doctors say, and then go from there.
Okay.
Do we have any idea how long the continued immunotherapy?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think that for right now, so there are some rare patients who are on it for so long that at some point we have to start saying, well, gosh, it's been 2 years. Are we just going to continue this forever? But at least for people who, are still in the first year or so, as long as you're feeling okay on it, we're just going to continue it for now. Precisely because we fear that if we stop it, that you're going to feel more like you felt before you started it. And we don't want you to feel that way. We want you to feel this way.
Right.
Amen.
Alrighty?
What about, there was the other one you said, Mom, about, 'cause she's a road trip planned, and so the next one might be a week late.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's no problem. Oh, but Ms. Aguila, I heard a story that you have not been vaccinated. Is that true?
That's true.
All right, Ms. Aguila. Now, if you were in the office, what I would do is I would sit you down on the other side of the table and we would arm wrestle. And if I won the arm wrestle, you have to get the vaccine. And if you won, then you also have to get the vaccine. That's the way that it would work.
What about, I just got my test back from Quest, and they said that I do have the antibodies that I've had the virus.
That's interesting, and you should still have the vaccine. All joking aside, there is overwhelming evidence that the vaccine is safe and effective. I am totally well aware. I've been very active on Facebook through the pandemic, mostly talking about the vaccines and about the pandemic, and I know that there are tons and tons of rumors swirling about, the vaccine causes infertility and it causes blood clots and it causes, anyway, all kinds of things. If someone says, well, can you guarantee that there are no risks from the vaccine? Well, the answer to that question is no, but it's also true that I can't guarantee there are no risks from going to the grocery store or, doing anything, right? I mean, everything has risks. But there is an enormous body of evidence. Like, you could make an argument that the vaccines are the most closely scrutinized public health intervention in the history of the world. Certainly in real time, that's true. And there is overwhelming evidence that they are safe and effective. And although the fact that you have antibodies is probably somewhat protective, the Delta variant in particular is so contagious and arguably more dangerous, although the final results on that are still being debated. But in any case, it's just that as a person who's a little bit older and who has underlying cancer, if you were to catch the coronavirus, maybe you already caught it once and you dispensed with it, and I hope that's true and that's wonderful. But we know that people who are older and people who have cancer, both of those groups independently, let alone somebody who falls into both of those groups, are at a higher risk for developing serious disease if they get the virus. So again, can I say there's absolutely no risk? No, because there's nothing that has no risk. But in general, we recommend that all of our patients get the vaccine.
Do you have a preference? Pfizer or Moderna?
No, not really. There is some sort of, some people think that there's maybe a little bit of evidence that the Moderna one is better than the Pfizer, but that's pure speculation, honestly. Now we did lose her. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine, I think, is in a sort of a class by itself because while they're very rare, there have been some untoward side effects associated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which mostly have not been seen with Moderna and Pfizer. But between the two, Moderna and Pfizer, the data looks very, very similar. Yeah. So I don't think we don't have a strong preference.
Okay.
Could I get away with just one shot?
The problem with the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, we do have good data, and basically what the data shows is that there is some protection with one dose, but it's not as robust as two. And so, it's all a numbers game, right? So it's not like there's no such thing as perfect protection, and there's no such thing as no protection, right? I mean, the immune system does offer pretty good protection for lots of people against the virus. As you said, most people who get the virus either don't even know they had it, or they get it and they get sick and they get better, and it's not a big deal. But there is a not insignificant proportion of people who get really, really sick, and there are, I mean, and, you know, it's obviously the biggest thing in the news, right? But there are 650,000 people in the U.S. who died. And so when you get the vaccine, if you get one dose of the vaccine, it improves things substantially. If you get 2 doses of the vaccine, it improves things even a lot more. And in particular, with the rise of the Delta variant, I think it's, you know, there's just good data that it's, now, you know, you could bring up, well, what about the fact that I'm on immunotherapy and I'm not really, you know, am I really immunocompromised? And that's a fair question. And I don't know any specific data for patients who are on immunotherapy with the vaccine. You know, I'm certainly not as worried about you being on immunotherapy as I would be about somebody who's on certain kinds of immunosuppressive therapy, where that would be much more concerning. But there is nonetheless evidence that people with cancer, regardless of what their risk is because of the therapy that they're on, just the fact that they have cancer at all puts them at higher risk for serious complications. And there is, you know, there's overwhelming evidence that that the older you are, the more dangerous it is, right? And so when you get up towards 80, even if you didn't have cancer, the risk from the virus would be substantial.
Mhm.
So obviously, every medical decision is ultimately your decision, not our decision. But it's just to know that there's very good evidence that the vaccines are effective, and you know, and we just want to do everything we can to help protect you as best we can. And the one thing I will say that I don't think we have any specific evidence about their safety and efficacy while on immunotherapy. I will double check that I don't think there's any specific evidence there, but I'll double check and let you know. But certainly in general, our recommendation is to get the vaccines, and I'll let you know in the next day or two if I figure out anything about the immunotherapies.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
All right, guys. Good to see you. So we'll refer to pulmonology. We'll have another appointment with a scan in about 3 months, and I'll let you know in the next day or two if I find any specific information about the immunizations and people who are on immunotherapy.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Okay.
You know.
Thanks. Oh, sorry. Did someone say something? I couldn't hear.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you.